Okay, so this is going to be episode 6 of how to get low income housing. This is specifically for people that want to do the continuum of care. Okay, if you're looking for HUD manuals, you can go into my channel and then you look it up that way. It's that, going through regular HUD is a longer process and there's a lot more involved. So if that's what you're looking for, this is not going to be the video for you. COC is a much quicker process, and that's what we've been going through. If you haven't seen episode 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you should start there so you have an understanding. Jumping in the middle here is not going to help you, okay? Last but least, I think we left off at this is the operations manual, so I think we're at the housing assessment process, okay? So this is what's going through the mind of people that work there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to summarize things as we go. We don't need to read verbatim. We just need to know what it all means, okay? So I'm going to move up a little bit, make sure we covered everything. Yeah, okay. All this particular section says right here is essentially that they have 6 hours of training. In other words, if you can ring up a cheeseburger and operate the window at Taco Bell, then you're fully qualified to sit at a desk and assess whether or not people get housing. That's really what it comes down to, okay? I'm not trying to be mean, but really. And it says it right here. The training consists of 6 hours. Come on, there's so many things in life that I've done that require more than 6 hours. All right, moving on. So let's look at the workflow for the worker and what they're thinking when you're talking. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and increase the magnification. It'll be a little bit blurry. Can't help that. Okay, so the first block is coordinated access triage. Look, you walk up to the desk, and then that is an assessor. Okay, they're going to assess, ask questions, you answer. Based on your answer, will be the next step. Okay. Block number 2, add or edit client. Okay, so what they mean by that is they're either going to enter you in the system, or you're going to say enough of the wrong questions, the wrong answers to them, and then they're going to pawn you off on another organization and wish you luck. Okay, that's why it's so important that you guys are listening to what I'm saying in all of these videos, so you don't end up getting pawned off in some loop that goes nowhere. Okay. Now, if you do get entered in the system, you become a client at that moment. Okay, it's still not a guarantee. Then they're going to look at client information that includes ROI. Just want to see if you're just being put in the system, whether you've been in it before, okay? And that's it, setting up your profile. The next thing is based on the initial questions and also your test scores, we're determining your housing eligibility, okay? And that can go two different directions. If you say things like that you were in the military, that means you're VA, so that's gonna be an easy out for them. They're gonna send you out the door to the VA, okay? That terminates it right there. If you say DV, domestic violence, it is not the end of it, but you need to know your rights with this, okay? If you are domestic violence a victim, and that is the premise of you being there to seek housing, then they're going to send you out to the door to another organization. It's over with here. Now, you can reject that and say, look, I'm here on the premise or the fact that I need housing, and it's not specifically because I'm a domestic violence victim, and then you may move forward. You may deny their assertion to send you away, okay? You do have that right. Now, if you didn't go those two directions and you weren't just turned away because you have no business being there, then you move over here, the housing type matching and eligibility engine, okay? Engine means algorithm. Based on your answers, it goes into an algorithm. The reason they have to use algorithm is because people are racist, prejudiced, and so many other things. Okay, so if we didn't have an algorithm and we actually let real people decide our fate, then things would probably go pretty badly. Okay, so that's why it's important that we have an algorithm. You answer questions, they enter into the system, and then the system selects it. Okay, rather than having a human being. And we all know how that goes, especially when you get down to things like food stamps, social security checks, and all that. There are good people and there are evil people. So I would rather let an algorithm that doesn't have emotions to cloud the situation, make decisions, okay? Now, once you've been entered into that database through an algorithm, it's going to spit out two things. It's either going to say, you know what, the client's good for permanent supportive housing, or the person's going to be good for rapid rehousing. I have videos for both of these. It's not that hard to look through my channel and find both of them, okay? I don't want to give a long explanation of that stuff because we've already, matter of fact, if you really want to see about both of those, you can look at video 4 and 5, okay? Or you can find the individual videos I've done on them too. But short explanation, permanent supportive housing pays 100% if you qualify. If you do rapid rehousing, they will pay 100% for a couple of months and then they will slowly decrease the amount that you're going to get. And this will go anywhere from 6 months to 24 months max, okay? That's what it means. Moving down. Depending on what happens there, then the housing prioritization tool will kick in. So now we're past the algorithm and you're going to be judged on where on this list you're going to be, okay? Look, it's not like when you were in school, okay? The first person to get in line for lunch was a lucky person. It doesn't work that way. The first person to call these people are getting in line, you're thinking like a child, okay? It doesn't really work that way. It works on who needs what more, okay? Not who's first in line, okay? So, if you have disabilities, mental disability, physical disabilities, if you're over 60, you're a senior, and let's see what else. There's a lot of different situations that can qualify you higher in a list, and we have been over those particulars in earlier videos, so I don't want to go too deep in that. But depending on how you answered those questions, can shoot you to the top of the list or about halfway down it, okay? The only way to actually be at the bottom of the list of the COC would be as if you actually already have some wonderful job and you're just an idiot trying to get something pretty, okay? Moving down. So after you get in the matching system, you go into the consolidated waiting list. And all that really means is all available houses right then and there, okay? Look, new housing opens up every second on that system, okay? It's kind of like the stock market. 1 minute, a property pops in, and whatever social worker happens to be at your computer at that time can snatch the property, okay? Now, that consolidated system is kind of selective, and it can select, consider having a disability as a dinner reservation on the system, okay? The better the restaurant, the less that other people will be able to apply for it. So if you've got a good reservation on the system, means you're ranking high, then you're likely to get housing that nobody else can select through the system, okay? I don't know how else to explain that. Required documents. Look, you're talking about people that are almost homeless, that either lost things, lost everything, that may not even have documents. Look, the stuff they ask you for is pretty simple. It's not extreme, and so I wouldn't worry about it. If you don't have everything the first time, don't sweat that. If you came fully prepared, they would probably question your integrity. And you certainly don't want to tell them you have their manuals, okay? Okay, moving on. Release of information. You need to sign that. That's just to ensure that they can check other databases, see where you stand with getting food stamps, social security checks, disability checks, and everything else. So let me tell you something. They're not the FBI, okay? They don't just magically go into their old ass computer and they can figure out how much money you make. Now, what they can do with a little bit of research is determine how much money you've likely made in the last year. I don't think they have the ability to look up whether or not you own a car or look at your credit history, any of that stuff. They may be able to look at your rental history, but those are the type of things they're looking for. They just want to know if you're a liar, okay? And for the most part, these systems are usually there's so much going on with it. These guys only have 5 to 10 minutes to make decisions. They're not going to go home and spend 12 hours figuring out your life story. Everybody's got a long one. Client photos. You either give a photo or you get out. That's all there is to that, okay? There are people that will try to work the system in several different states at one time and then turn around and sublease these apartments for whatever purposes, or maybe they're a drug dealer and they want to open up a new branch of selling crack out of low-income housing. Who knows? So yeah, you're going to have to do release some information, your photos. Now let's talk about the timeline. Look, they say a lot of blah 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 in this particular paragraph, but it comes down simply. You walk in the door, you meet person number one that asks you questions. If you pass that, they open up the magic gate, and then you get to talk to the second person, which is the housing assessor. Think of this guy as a person who holds all the list of all the housing. Okay? So, if employee number one refers you to two, you're good to go. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to get anything out of the situation. When person number two, the housing assessor, gets this, then basically, or the housing coordinator, see, they have a lot of names for this. So the housing person is going to reach out to whatever's available on the market, obviously give you an option, and then they will figure out whether or not you're going to fit. So, process number one is usually they try to tell you what their intent that is that day, whether or not you may pass, whether you pass go, or if it's not going to work out at all, and they just want to pawn you off another organization. Within 7 days, the second employee is going to call you and say, okay, you've been accepted in the system. We're looking at this, and we're going to make a determination of whether or not we're going to reject you or accept you. And the reason they would say that is because they can look at the housing options, but if nobody wants you because you're a child, because you're an offender, a sexual offender, whatever, they can reject you at that point and say, look, we simply don't have that type of housing for you, okay? And I'm sorry, but that's what it is, and then refer you somewhere else. Now, here's the magical part. So all these processes are being tracked through the HMIS, which is basically a database. Okay, the algorithm, so the database is HMIS, which has algorithm, all the files, all your information, and you're simply being tracked through that. The ultimate goal of the housing first approach is to get you into something within 30 to 60 days. This is why they called it to rapid rehousing. It's supposed to be rapid, real fast. If it's permanent supportive housing, then that's pretty quick too, but there's less of that, okay?